Some of my favorite conversations have happened over the rims of mugs. I'm Denise Harper, co-host of The Bridge Morning Show with Denise and Chris, and program director for The Bridge. There's something special about sitting across the table from a friend, whether we've known them forever or for just a minute, with a good cup of coffee and an open heart. I hope today's conversation will inspire and encourage you. Hi, I'm Denise Harper with Over the Rims of Mugs. Thank you for joining me again for another episode. And today, my guest is somebody super special. She was actually the very first guest I ever had on Over the Rims of Mugs. But before I do that, I want to tell you about this room that we're in. We've been in coffee shops all year long, and today we're inside the community room at the Bridge. A lot of community happens in this room. I've led Bible studies in here. We've had all kinds of dinners and meetings and little mini concerts. And there's something very special about this room. And so we thought it would be fun to bring the podcast here for at least one or two episodes this year. So welcome to the community room. By the way, we have a coffee roasted by Amity Coffee Roasters in Greenwood called the Bridge Blend. And if you are interested in trying it, you can always stop by during business hours. We'll make a cup and have a cup with you. So we'd love for you to stop in and do that. So today, without further ado, I want to introduce you to my guest, Carrie Robinson. Welcome.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness. So the first time you were here, it was during COVID.
It was.
And we were sitting way across the counter from each other up in the studio.
Yes.
And
2020.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
Yes.
It seems like a lifetime ago.
It does.
So how are you?
I'm okay.
Good.
I'm doing okay.
Good.
Thanks for asking.
I think there's always a beautiful joy on your face.
Oh, thank you.
I feel it resonating from your heart. I know that it's real. I saw somewhere, maybe might have been on your Facebook page, that you said you're a grief bearer, life giver. And I thought, what a juxtaposition. But that's really beautiful because the joy is, even through the grief, you know who brings life to you.
Yes.
And you can have joy in the midst of that.
Yes.
Speaking of joy, we saw each other earlier this year at the ladies' conference, the Joy Bringer Conference.
Oh, my goodness. That conference was amazing.
It was so good.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. God spoiled me at that conference.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
I remember.
Yes.
Got upgraded and the whole 9 yards.
To a big suite to myself.
God loves to bless his girls.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's wonderful.
I think you're especially blessed.
Thank you.
I appreciated so much that you shared, and it was in the early stages of your grieving process over losing your son, Coleman. But I thought maybe you would share, for those who aren't familiar with your story, maybe you could tell us a little bit about your family.
Okay, I'd be glad to. So my husband and I have been married 32 years this year.
Congratulations.
And we are not native Delawareans. We moved here in 1992. He was in the Air Force.
Okay.
And we just stayed here. I graduated from Del State with my nursing degree and went on to get my master's in nursing at Wesley. And so we just kind of set roots here and tried to leave a few times, and God he wouldn't release us. So we said, well, I guess this is home.
Yeah. So you were telling me before we started recording that you're from Mississippi?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So where in
Born and
Mississippi?
raised on the Gulf Coast, Gulfport.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
So I lived in Pensacola for 3 years.
Okay.
We toured a lot in a singing group, my husband and I, and we went through Mississippi an awful lot.
Okay.
So we were in Gulfport a number of times.
Yes, and I lived in Pensacola for 2 years, and our oldest son was born there at Pensacola Naval Hospital.
Oh, of course.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
So you've seen a lot of the country as well then, right?
A little.
Different
Yes.
bases.
Yes.
Yeah.
A few, yeah.
We're so glad that you decided to make Delaware your home. And you're a nurse?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Tell us
I'm a
little bit
nurse
about
at
that.
Bay Health.
Okay.
I've been there 28 years.
You take
this
care
year.
of babies.
I used to take care of babies.
Okay.
For over 20 years, probably close to about 25 years, I took care of moms and babies. And then about 2 years ago, I was just ready for a change. And so I went into care management.
Okay.
So now I just assist patients with a safe discharge home and
Yeah.
things like that. So
Yeah.
it's nice. I enjoy it.
Yeah.
It's an 8-hour day instead of a 12-hour day. So I really
Yeah.
enjoy that. Yeah.
And that is comforting to the patient. It's probably part of your ministry outreach.
Yes, I meet a lot of interesting people and a
Yeah.
lot of wonderful people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So good. All right. Tell me about your boys.
So Christopher's 36. He probably won't want me saying that because he's close to 40. So, but he and his wife have been married 3 years, and they have 3 children. They just welcomed a new baby girl, our first granddaughter, into the family.
Yeah.
Her name is Carrie, and we just love her. She is the princess, and she is just the light of our lives these days. And then we had Coleman. He would have been 30 this year, but he died when he was 25. So this December 26 will be 5 years that we miss him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's been a journey. Coleman was one of the last babies born here in Dover Air Force Base Hospital.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So he grew up here, Delaware. He's a Delaware native.
Yeah.
So, it's all he's ever known. And our family is in Mississippi. My husband is from South Carolina. So we spend a lot of time in South Carolina with my husband's family.
Okay. All right. Do you want to share a little bit about Coleman?
Coleman, he was such a joy, and he was my cuddly one. He was the one who would give me the bear hugs, and I miss those so much. And we were just so much alike that we would bump heads at times because our personalities were so similar. He was a lot like his dad too, but he was a good combination of the two of us. And so, it was the kind of that mom letting go and, trying to hold on at the same time to the last one. And
Yeah. Isn't it funny that you have 2 boys that are so different? And because I have 2, and they are like night and day.
Yes.
So different.
Yes.
Like you raised in the same place
Right.
by the same people. You ate
Yes.
the same foods. You went to the same church
Came
and
from
school.
the same womb. Yes. So different.
It is a true reminder that God makes each of us unique.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is it about being grandma to a little princess that has captured your heart?
Oh gosh, it's so different. It's so different having a girl versus boys.
Yeah.
Because we had 2 sons, and then we had our oldest grandson who's from our son, and then we have our bonus grandson from our daughter-in-law. So he's our grandson too. We love
yeah.
him like he's our own. He is our own.
Yeah.
And now to have a girl. And the boys are 15 and 12, so there's a big age gap in between.
What do they think?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. They love her, they hold her, but then they're off on their own, doing their own thing.
Yeah.
So I think as she gets older, we'll be able to tell more. She's going to be the boss, for sure, of the 2 of them.
There's no doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt in my
Yeah.
mind.
Yeah.
Do you think that you'll continue working at the hospital in the role that you're in for a longer time?
For a few more years, probably.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes. I'm looking forward to retirement. They hate to hear that, but
I'm sure
I
they
am.
do.
I am.
You and your husband like to travel.
Yes, a lot.
I saw that you had been on a fantastic trip recently, and I love that. I love that you guys are adventurous.
We try. We didn't do a lot of worldwide travel when the boys were smaller. We took trips mostly to visit family. We did a few parks and things like that, but water parks. We did Disney once, but most of it was driving trips.
Yeah.
So now that we're empty nesters and, a little bit more older and have a little bit more disposable income, we can take a few more wonderful trips. So
I love that.
we try to take advantage of trips when we can. And we live in a community that loves to travel. So whenever we can get a trip with our community, we jump at it.
That's good. So what else has been going on in your life?
Well, so after Coleman died for about, it was like right when COVID happened. He passed in December. COVID broke loose in March, right when I went back to work, because I was off for about 3 months after he died. And then I went back to work, and then it just blew up. And so it was kind of hard because it was grieving and isolation. And I think I was still in shock. Even when I went back and listened to that podcast, and I was like, who is that lady? Like, she sounds so upbeat. And like, I think I was just still in shock from all of it. And then after about that first year, things kind of settled down. People couldn't connect as much because of COVID, so people couldn't come over as much as they had been, even though we were surrounded by so many people, and so much love and care and concern was wonderful. But I have since learned, as I've been just kind of processing the grief and learning more about, because you just don't know what you don't know. And I've learned that people go back to their lives, and you're the one left with your grief. And so having to process that by myself, my husband went back to work, and I was home. I work part-time, so I'm home more than I'm at work. So just being home in my own thoughts and things, and having to process that. And the first time I sat with you, I talked about how the bridge got me through a lot of those times. I would sit in my chair by the window and listen to the radio, and that was very helpful. But after about the first year or two, I kind of started spiraling down. And so I went to some dark places and some deep places, and I really just had a lot of questions of God about why and what's supposed to, how am I supposed to live now? Like, I don't even know who I am. I don't even know who you are. Like, what am I supposed to do with myself? And it was just me being real with him and just trying to figure things out. I started therapy. When I came and spoke with you back in 2020, I was going to Grief Share, and that was good for a while. But then after that, I just needed to, I'm the type of person, I need to process, and I don't like to hold things in. I have to get it out.
And a therapist is perfect for that, and it's one-on-one. So they can really hear your heart. And hear what you're not saying as well.
Shout out to Dr. Pamela Adams, Christian therapist, trauma specialist. She was amazing. She has been amazing in my recovery and just helping me deal with grief and validating that the things that I'm feeling and going through are normal and they're okay. And when you're in those low places, you just need to know that, because I don't think we hear that enough. I didn't hear that enough, especially from the church. That's okay. Everybody wanted me to just be okay and wanted me to smile and wanted me to be happy and, you know, kind of get on with things. And I tried, but it was just kind of like faking it. It wasn't real.
And it's probably hard to see others who are going through grief, and you're thinking, I'm not where they are, and what's wrong with me that I can't be at that place yet, right?
Well, and I'm hard on my own self. And so when I first went to my therapist, I was just asking her, like, how long is this going to take? Like, how long am I going to be feeling like this? How long is it going to take me to get through this? And her advice and counsel to me was, give yourself grace. There is no timeline. You can't be like, it's individual. Grief is individual. And no one can tell you how to do it. They can kind of guide you through and give you tips and things like that, but your grief is really your own.
Those are really wise words, Carrie. I think that as you have walked through it, one of the things that I've observed when I've watched you on social media even, I realize sometimes we can put our best foot forward, but I have loved that you've been willing to be vulnerable and open. And if there's a particular holiday or a specific date that reminds you of Coleman and you're going through a time where you're really missing him, that you're honest about that. And I see a community of people who would respond to you in that.
It's been very eye-opening to get feedback from people when they say, I feel the same way, or I felt the same way, but I didn't feel like I could say that being a believer.
Yeah.
People were going to judge me. People were going to think less of me. And it breaks my heart that we cannot be honest about what we're feeling because we fear backlash from the Christian community or from our churches. And I just feel like it shouldn't be that way.
Right.
But then I think back before Coleman, because in loss, there's a before and after.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like everything in my life now is before Coleman died and after Coleman died.
Yeah.
Before Coleman died, I was one of those people that I didn't know how to deal with people who had loss in their life. I mean, I could be there and try to comfort, but I really didn't get it until it happened in my life. And so it's really been a journey of just learning, trying to be real with myself, trying to keep my head above water and just be able to educate other people about what grieving people may need, because we don't know.
Sometimes it's okay to just sit.
It's okay.
Sit with someone.
The presence of presence. It's a present to just be with someone. You don't have to say anything. You don't have to do anything. Just sit there. The people that I remember the most in those early days would come to our home and just sit on the couch, and they'd be on their phones, texting, watching movies or whatever, but they were just there. They didn't have to say anything.
Yeah.
It was wonderful.
Yeah. You've mentioned that your husband went back to work, and I would think even if you were both at home, you were probably processing at different speeds, in different ways, different layers and levels.
Yes.
Right.
Men and women, as you know,
Yeah.
being a married woman, are so different.
Yes.
And then parental grief is like its own, entity. It's so different because it's almost out of place, for your child to go before you.
Right.
So as a mom, I'm coping the best way I can, and then he's coping as a dad and a husband the best way he can, having a wife who's grief-stricken and having a son who's coping in his way. Yeah. And it was a lot for him. And I think for my husband, just being the type of man that he is, a godly man, just so strong and so compassionate, it was hard for him to see me going through all of that. And so I kind of think that he didn't grieve as much as he maybe would have wanted to, because he was trying to be strong for me. Yeah. And I couldn't help anybody, so, I couldn't help him. And so his grief kind of compounded a little bit. Yeah. And then he had to deal with it. It kind of came out in a way that he just had to deal with it. Mm-hmm.
Do you remember the time or the day that you realized, I'm going to survive this? I mean, was there ever something that you were like, okay, I can see that I am going to be able to keep moving forward? Or was it just all of a sudden one day you realized, I got up and I had coffee, I did make my bed, I did some of the things that I would have looked at as normal before that just have felt so out of place because I've been missing my son?
I think this year, 2024, with the Joy Conference, that was kind of the turning point for me. It was like a releasing of a weight. And I think getting that upgrade to that 3-bedroom suite with the kitchen and all of that, it was like, for the first time in 4 years, I heard God and I felt his love for me. I heard him speaking to me at that conference, and I felt his love for doing something that was unexpected, that he didn't have to do. He didn't have to upgrade me to such an elaborate place. He could have just put me in another room with 2 beds. But he didn't do that. And so it just he heard my inner cry, because I had said it would be nice to have a nice luxurious room, but I didn't say it out loud. It was just something I thought. He heard my thought and granted me that. And it was just, I was blown away
Yeah.
by the whole weekend.
Yeah. So a little behind the scenes information about this particular weekend for anybody who didn't come to the conference.
You missed it.
It snowed like crazy beforehand, and we had so many phone calls. People were asking left and right, is the conference still on? We were like, oh, listen, the singer and the speaker are in town already. We have the hotel booked,
Yes.
and we are doing this thing. And you had to press through a whole lot. Your roommate backed out on you at the last minute.
Yes, because of the weather.
Yes.
Yes.
And you pressed through. And that's one thing that I felt like every lady that came that weekend had to really press through to get there, because it was
Yes.
not an easy
Yes.
feat. It was, at one point, it was like whiteout conditions
Yes.
outside. And I'm so glad that you came. And I love that God did something that special for you that weekend.
It would have been so easy
Yeah.
to say, I'm not going to go. But I just kept saying, God, if I can just get on the highway, and if you'll just make it clear for me every step of the way, I'm going. There was such a press to be there. Like, I need to be at this conference. I don't know why, but there's something you have for me there, and I need to be there. And it was to get my joy back. Little did I know.
Amen.
And I just pressed my way, and it was like the sky was open. There was no snow all the way until I got to the beach.
Okay.
And then it came down.
Oh, man.
So he got me all the way there, and then he blessed me
Yeah.
on top of that with the extra cherry on top of all of that with that room. It was amazing.
I'm so glad. I think about times where we would tend to put off something because the situation doesn't seem right, or well, maybe I'll just go another time. And that's just a reminder. Your story is a reminder to us to press through when we
Yes.
feel God's urgency for us to do something.
Even
right?
when you don't feel like it. It was the scariest thing, because throughout this grief journey, I had several panic attack times where I would find myself on the floor, catching my breath, thought I was dying, heart racing, sweating, palpitations. I'd never had that before.
Wow.
But after Coleman died, I experienced panic attacks. Now I know that it's normal when you're grieving, but I didn't know that before. And so for me to go anywhere by myself was very hard for me. To leave my home was very hard, because grief can tend to bring about a kind of a fear that you may have never experienced before, because I was fearing the unknown. What if this happens? What if that happens? And I'm a lot better now than I was then, but it was very hard for me to go out and be social. And people, this is probably the first time people are hearing this, because, you just kind of like put on the happy face and
Yes.
okay, but it's inside. My insides were a mess. And so it took a lot for me. I will never forget that weekend, because it took a lot for me. I was going by myself, and I was driving in bad weather. And it was everything that I could do to get there. But when I got there,
Yes. I remember seeing you when you came in, and you said, you won't believe my story.
Yes.
I was not going to miss this weekend.
Nope.
And I'm so
No.
glad.
Yes.
I am so glad.
So that was kind of like the turning point for me for this year.
Okay.
Because up until that point, I was still just, on uneven footing, just trying to find my way and just trying to learn as much as I could about how to recover and how to move forward and things like that without Coleman being here. Every special occasion is hard.
Yeah.
When family's together, because I always think he should be here.
Yeah.
Like he's missing it. Like
Yeah.
he would love this.
Yeah.
He is such a family person
Yeah.
that he would love this.
Yeah.
So that's been challenging.
Yeah. He, I don't know if you've ever seen a bird. Like I lost my brother a few years ago, and see a red cardinal comes and sits right on the post outside my kitchen window some days. And I see that. And of course, people will say, that someone's thinking of you, that, that your loved one. And I will see that bird and say, I see you.
I see lots of cardinals in my backyard.
I'll bet you do.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, It's, whether that's true or not, I just love that there's a little symbol that God gives us or reminds us that our loved ones are part of our great, it's the Bible in Hebrews talks about our great crowd of witnesses. Yes. And I like to think that our loved ones are a part of that crowd.
Yes.
What else is happening? Is there a new chapter for you? I know the whole grandma to a little princess is probably a really big deal right now.
It is. My husband and I last year got back into marriage ministry, and that's something that we have been doing in our church for many, many years. And we took a little hiatus after Coleman died because we just needed to get ourselves together, and we didn't want to harm anyone, with our grief, going through grief. Didn't want that to spill over. And so it was the whole Romans 8:28 that kind of propelled us. It's like, okay, God, if something good can come out of this, then maybe that's it.
Yeah.
So we got back into, we met once a month for 9 months, and we taught on the fruit of the Spirit.
I love
and
that.
It just blew up. It blew up.
Wow.
And so we've just been doing that. We've just been doing what God has called us to do. And every time we thought we wanted to quit, the couples were like, no.
Don't you think that some of your ministry to other people is also a healing salve for your heart?
It is. Yeah. It is. I think it is, but I'm always mindful that it can't be my therapy. Ministry can't be my therapy, which is why I go to therapy, because I don't want to use that as my healing place. So it is a way for me to give back the love that I have for Coleman to other people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really wise too. There's wisdom in that, because it can be easy to hide in that.
In the busyness of the doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we didn't want to do that. We really didn't want to do that. We wanted to be a blessing to the couples.
Yeah. I love that you're doing it together.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Couples. That's great.
We love it.
So you have a copy of my book over there.
Yes.
I just happened to notice that.
Yes.
And it looks like you have read a few pages in it.
I've read a lot of pages. To see all of these highlights.
And you've highlighted.
Yes,
and
I write in my book, and I'm that kind of reader.
That was my heart.
Yes.
When we first started talking about it, I said to the lady who was working editing and publishing, I said, I'd really like for there to be margin in this.
Yes. I'm so glad you did that.
So that we can write our thoughts.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. One of the ones that you wrote is on page 205. It says, truth is quiet. I love that devotional. So good. Truth is quiet. It's the lies that are loud.
Yeah.
I thought, oh, that's so good, Denise. So good and so true, because in my deepest and darkest place, the lies were very loud.
Yeah.
Yeah, the lies were very loud.
I was inspired by Jesus Revolution. That's where I heard that. The wife of the main character, when she said, the lies will be always, those voices will be very loud. The truth is quiet. And I was in the middle of watching the movie. I'm like, I got my phone. I'm like, I got to write this down. That was so good. And it is so true.
It is true. Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes for me, the quiet has been very scary, because in my mind, I can think all kinds of thoughts. And so I had to learn to open my mouth again. I was being too quiet in my grief, and I had to learn to open my mouth and start. I could have these inner dialogues with God and with myself, but to have them out loud, I don't know why. For some reason, I wasn't speaking out loud. I would just sit there, and I had to tell myself, Carrie, open your mouth. God wants to hear your voice.
Yeah.
Open your mouth and tell him how you feel.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Yeah, you have a lot of good. You have a lot of good stuff in this book. If you don't have this book, people, you need to get this book. It is very good.
Thank you.
It is. The devotions are on point, and they're not long, but they are very poignant. That's a word. They're very good. And this one I really liked is There Is a Cost. It's on page 72, and it's about breaking the alabaster box.
Yeah.
And it made me think about when I watched The Chosen. Me and my husband watched The Chosen. I don't know if you watched that
I
series.
have,
Oh,
yeah.
so good.
Yes.
And when just this season 4, Mary broke the alabaster box, or she bought the oil to put on Jesus's feet. And she gave all this money. She gave like a year's wages. And this made me think of, that's her story.
Yeah.
But there is a cost.
Yeah.
There's a cost to everything.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes when we are not careful and judge someone else's worship, we don't know the cost of their praise. And have no idea sometimes the depth of things that somebody's walked through.
So true.
Right? Yeah.
So true.
Wow. Precious, I have loved our time together. Is there anything else that untapped, uncharted that we haven't covered?
Grief is something I feel like we don't talk about a lot.
Yeah.
And I think when somebody is going through a loss in the beginning days, weeks, and months, they really don't know what they need. And for those friends who are really near and dear to them, I think just being there helps them.
Yeah.
And after everyone has left, just kind of staying around, the months that follow, the years that follow, checking in on people. People have to do their own grief work.
Yeah.
I think it's so important. And I feel like I've become a grief advocate for people because it's just something we don't talk about.
Yeah.
We don't talk about how to help people
Yeah.
and talk about their loved ones with them, not, in conversation. We need to hear those conversations about our loved ones and what they meant to you and, funny things that they said and memories that you have. Like, we want to hear those stories.
Yeah.
It's just important to help us process.
Yeah. So I've heard you say that it's okay to have a counselor, therapist,
Yes.
to give yourself time and space, that it's not going to happen overnight. I'm sure that there are probably still triggers, things that, just when you think that you're turning a corner, something happens.
Yes.
Talking to God out loud.
So important.
And I loved what you said, your presence is a present. It's a gift to just sit, and it's okay to just sit with someone.
Yes. Yes.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. It's been awesome.
If someone has a question about that, could they reach out to you?
Sure.
Would that be okay?
Yes.
We'll put a contact in the show notes so that people can get in touch with you because I think what I hear in your heart is the deep compassion for someone who struggles with, is it okay to feel this way? And when will I not feel this way?
Yeah.
And how can I move forward? And loving each other, that's what God has called us to do.
Yes.
And I love that it is awkward for someone who hasn't been through it to know what to do. And so if maybe God's opening another ministry for you.
Maybe. I don't know.
You'll just be open. We'll pray about that.
Yes,
Right?
we'll pray about that. My husband and I are attending a weekend in late August in Maryland. It is from an organization called While We're Waiting for bereaved parents. And it's a bereaved parents group organization. And they do weekends where you go and with other bereaved parents, very intimate. I think it's about 10 other parents. And they rent a home, and it's no cost to you. Everything is covered, and you just show up and you just kind of process together. So we're excited to be able to do that, because it will be interesting to see if other parents feel the same way we felt and feel.
Yeah. While we're waiting.
While we are waiting.
Okay.
Bereaved parents group. Yeah.
Wow.
They do weekends all over the country.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
What
free
a
to
beautiful
parents.
ministry. Wow. All right. Well, I am so grateful for you. I love you.
I love you too.
I love your heart. Thank you for making us a circle back to join me again on Over the Rims of Mugs. It's a delight to connect with you.
Thank you.
And your joy in Jesus is you wear it well. It's beautiful on you.
It's been fought for.
Yeah,
Yes.
so true. So
Yeah.
true. Carrie Robinson on Over the Rims of Mugs. I'm Denise Harper. I am so thankful for you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening on the podcast. And share it with a friend if something triggered a thought with you. Maybe you thought about somebody who's going through a difficult grieving process. This could be a tool or at least a piece of encouragement that can help to bring hope. We'll share those ministry information details that Carrie shared with us here in the show notes. Until the next time, I'm Denise Harper on Over the Rims of Mugs. We were never meant to journey alone. Whether you're having a great day or a hard one, we need each other to celebrate and to stand in the gap. Sharing our stories helps remind us that we're not alone. And when we sit with women who sit at the feet of Jesus, the conversations are different. We walk away feeling inspired, not inferior, because we know this Christian walk is a race, but not a competition. Thank you for listening to this episode of Over the Rims of Mugs. To share a comment, suggest a topic, or ask a question, email us podcast@wearethebridge.org. And please join me for a daily devotion on my blog entitled Treasured Inside. You can find it directly at deniseharper.blog or at wearethebridge.org/devotion. Until our next sip, I'm your host, Denise Harper, encouraging you to catch up with a friend or make a new one and enjoy some good conversation over the rims of mugs.